Hello and welcome to Fix It with Peter. I'm Peter, and before we start, I just want you to know that you don't have to be super handy or have a ton of experience to do this. If you're nervous, unsure, or worried about breaking something, you're in the right place. We're going to take this slow. I'll explain why we're doing each step and what we're doing. And if you mess up, hey, that's okay. That's why we're here. This is Fix It with Peter, and we're just figuring things out together. Let's get started. So this is my first video ever. And today we are going to replace the screen on my Samsung Galaxy S24. As you can see, first time ever breaking a phone. Had it on the seat in the car, forgot it was there. I stepped out and it hit the ice. So bear with me. Again, this is my first video. I'm going to try to do this step by step. Try to explain the best I can as we go. Try not to take too long. Try not to do a lot of things. So please, feedback. Feedback would be fantastic. Anything you want to add, good or bad, things you'd change, things I could do differently, things I could do better, things anything helps. So yeah, let's see what we can do. I have bought a kit on Amazon. Okay, we'll just put this off to the side for a second. So I bought a kit from Amazon. I think it was 150 bucks roughly. And let's see what's all in here, because apparently this is everything you need to replace the screen. Okay, so everything's open, everything's all laid out here. Let's see what we have. So we've got some rubber bands. Not exactly sure what those are for quite yet. We've got a SIM card removal tray key. We've got a little pry tool, looks like. Comes with a little set of tweezers. That'll be very helpful for removing some of the little connectors that we have to remove. We've got wet and dry wipes for cleaning the screen and the cameras. We'll get to that in a little bit here. We've got a little pry tool, pry tool for lifting up the screen and sliding in between to release the glue. We've got a suction cup for helping get the back off. We've got 3 little screwdrivers. Now they're Phillips. Looks like a few Phillips screwdrivers there, different various sizes. Okay. We've got the adhesive. So this is just the adhesive for the back. For this will go along this edge right here. Okay, so those are the, and then of course, and then we've got the main screen itself. So this is the new screen that you get. Okay, it's got all the charging port, the speaker holes, and the hole for the S Pen, and all that stuff in there. Your buttons. Okay, those are all in there. And then the insides here, there's a few various things that we'll have to take off, like this little plastic cover for the front camera lens. We got to make sure that comes off before we actually put it back together, things like that. Now the front of the glass, the front of the new screen has a plastic protector. You don't want to take that off yet. One thing you don't want to do is scratch up the new screen. So let's just leave the plastic on there for now. Okay. All right. So the first order of business is to get the back glass off. Now, yes, it's glass. Okay. Now to get that off, we're going to use a little bit of isopropyl alcohol down in the seam. Okay. And we use the suction cup to very gently lift. And we use the little tool here to slide underneath and help release the glue of the adhesive that's currently on there. Okay, but before we even do that, we've got to remember, take our S Pen out. Take the S Pen out, and then we're going to release the SIM card tray. Okay, So make sure our SIM card doesn't fall out of there. I'll put that up on the shelf here. Okay, so those are the two things that you have to take out prior, or at least, make sure you do it before you junk your old screen. You don't want to throw away your S Pen. All right, so the first thing we have to do after removing the S Pen and the SD card slot, or the SIM card slot, is remove the back glass. All right, so now we can use a little bit of isopropyl alcohol, which I've got in my little cap here. You just put a little bit of that along the edges. That will help to get in there and help dissolve some of the glue and the adhesive that's on there. And that adhesive strip that we have the replacement for. As long as you get some down in that crack, not the crack, but a little space between the glass and the frame. That should help. Okay. Q-tips. Q-tips are going to be very handy, very useful resource in your workshop. Now we're going to apply some heat. Okay, I'm using a hot air soldering station. A little bit of hot air set at 400 degrees. Just go around the edge. But if you don't have a hot air station, hair dryer works just fine. Heat gun works just fine. All right, we're not looking to break anything, melt anything. You shouldn't burn yourself when you touch it. But we want to heat up that adhesive just enough so that we can use the suction cup provided and start to pull away the glass from the edge there, and we can work our way around. Okay, so now that we have that heated up, it's going to be a little bit easier to work along the long edge here. So we're going to put our suction cup close to the edge, be ready with our pry tool. We're just going to lift up. I don't know if you can see that on camera, but there's a little bit of an opening. You can see our little pry tool slipped in there fairly easily. Okay, so now we're just going to very carefully, very gently slide this tool underneath the edge, only going in maybe 1/8 of an inch. You only want to go in very, very slightly. Okay, and just be very careful. If you find, like I'm seeing at this corner, it wants to be a little stubborn. Wants to be a little bit stubborn. So we're going to hit it with a little bit more air. Just to heat it up a little bit to soften that adhesive. Let's see if we can get around that corner. Let's see how that works for us. Oop. Pretty toasty. Now just be very, very careful. So we're going to see if we can round this corner. Yeah, it's a little bit sharp, this tool, so just be careful. And now that we've pretty much let the adhesive go from the other corners, the other sides, we should be able to start to lift up the whole back. It's very nerve-wracking sometimes when you're doing these things. There we go. So we've got a good portion of it lifted up now. We're just going to hold that while we reinsert this tool with a slight bit of upward pressure to take that back off. Now you're going to see the glue is kind of holding on there. You can use these tweezers just to... Those are garbage. Use the tweezers they gave us. Have a nice sharp point on it. That adhesive is tough. Wow. Just kind of a good thing. It'll probably be easier to get off. But now, as we can see, okay, we'll take our suction cup off of there. Right, the back just comes right off. Okay, so now we've removed our back. Okay, so we're going to leave that off to the side for just a moment, and we're going to clean up the edge of the back glass. Same way, you just want to make sure you get the bulk of the adhesive off, the stuff that you can peel, just like that. And then we're going to use some isopropyl alcohol and maybe the little scraper here to help get all that residue off the edge. So, back glass is free of all of the residue from the sticker. We're going to put that out of the way. And now we can start taking apart the phone itself. Now, one thing you want to do is be very careful around the cameras. They have to be spotless. Okay, so one of the first sets of screws we have to take off is all these ones right here. Because we slowly take this off, then we peel back the wireless charging port, and then we can actually leave it on here. We'll get to that as soon as we finish this first step here. So I'm just going to check, make sure we have the right screwdriver. Does not feel like it. Let's try this one. Yeah, there we go. Now, these screws, from what I understand, are mostly the same. So we're going to put them over here in our magnetic part holder. Okay, there's one at least in this first set, there is one screw, this black one right here, that is different. All right, now with these connectors, inside the phone, there are a number of these little connectors. Now these are in a number of spots, and they're actually a little more sturdy than you might think. Here's an example here, okay, of those connectors, one of those connectors. And there's another one here. And there's a number of them around, but glue all over my fingers. But yeah, getting those in and out is extremely important, but not as difficult as it may seem. So I'll just show you, for example, with your trusty tweezers. We're going to take this one, and being careful not to touch anything else around, just right under the lip, and lift it up. And that connector is now off. Okay, now to put it back on, you just put it over top. Even with my fat fingers, I can do this pretty easy. They all kind of fall into the general right place. You just feel, put a little bit of pressure on it, and you'll hear a little snap. I don't know if you could hear that or not. Now you can kind of feel, after you do a few of them, you can kind of feel if they're in the right place or not. And you press on it, you don't hear the snap. It's kind of awkward. You know it's not seated properly. So you just lift it back out. You can, adjust, wiggle it around a little bit till you feel it, and then it'll snap back into place. Okay, so those are pretty, they can be pretty scary, but they're actually pretty easy to work with. All right, so we'll continue removing screws. All right, so it looks like we've taken off all of the screws in the top half that are exposed, at least so far. So now what we can do is, I'm going to grab a different tool. We're going to grab, get out of here, this tool and just lift this up. Okay, so this is the wireless charging coil. Okay, and that's the connector that we had undone. Now right here, excuse me, it's going to be taped, just tape, a little bit of adhesive. We're just going to peel it off that, but not off of the speaker down here. Okay, then we can just fold it back. Turn this so you can see everything. So again, we just, after we undid the screws, disconnect the connector for the charging coil, for the wireless charging coil, flip it back, releasing the adhesive just from the side from the S Pen holder here. Okay. So next, now that we've got this open, we can disconnect the battery. So that's the connector for the battery there. I want to do that one first. And now there's no power to the device, so we can unhook a few other things. So right here is a connector for this part right here. I believe that's a speaker, if I'm not mistaken. Now we can just carefully lift that up. Okay. Ooh, it's got some dust in it. Okay, so we'll carefully lift that up, put it off to the side. Next, we can take off a few other connectors. So there's a connector here that we want to lift up. Okay, pull that back. That one's back. We want to lift up this connector. No, I don't think we have to, actually. Sorry. We can leave that one. This one. This little guy for the S Pen. Okay. Because now what we can do is this whole assembly, because we've taken most of this apart. Oh, almost forgot this guy. This is your front camera. So I'm kind of learning as I go, just like you guys. So I'm not one of these, expert guys who's going to do everything right exactly first try. I'll make some mistakes along the way. Right along with you. No worries. We'll deal with it as we go. But now that that is done, let me just double check here. That's undone. That's undone. The S Pen is undone. These ones, we're just going to lift up this whole thing at once. So we can leave those installed. No, we're going to come right over here, watching to see if there's anything that we forgot. But it doesn't look like it. We're just going to lift that up. We're going to move that connector out of the way, move these connectors out of the way so we're not putting unnecessary force on anything. There we go. So we've got that whole camera section lifted up and out of the way now. All right, so now we're going to leave that where it is, fold this back, and we're going to remove the screws from down here. All right, screws are out. Let's see what we got here. Now we should be able to lift this out. If I'm not mistaken. Just a matter of where we pry from. Pry tools seen better days. There we go. Got it. So now we've got the wireless charging with, I believe that's a speaker, all in one section. So we're going to take that, put it out of harm's way. Next, we can take this section here, the camera section, and we're going to remove that. So again, there's 1, 2, 3 screws. And we don't have to remove these connectors. We're going to take this all out as one big chunk. The only connector that we have to remove is this one right here, which we should actually do right now. Here. All right, so now this should lift out. Now I think this is going to come kind of up and out this way because you've got the USB-C port, you've got a couple other things down there. So we'll lift this up. We'll just carefully lift that up, giving it a very slight backwards pressure. And now we've got the entire camera module and the charging port and all that good stuff out in one spot. All right, next we take out the battery. Now there's just a little pull tab here that you can lift up. And then it's a little bit tight, but just make sure we've got dry hands. Make sure we're holding onto the frame and just give it firm, steady pressure, lifting right up on that pull tab. Ooh. Okay, that sounded rough, but that was exactly what we wanted to happen. Pull that off there. Okay. That came off in one shot rather than peeling off like it does sometimes, but that's okay. That's good. It came out. It's all good. So this little pull tab, we just stick back down because obviously we're going to reuse the battery. This is just the adhesive for the battery. So that can stay right where it is. We're going to take a little smudger here and just iron out the wrinkles that were created from pulling that off. Just so it sits nice and flat when we put it back in. That's a big thing. Okay, that's perfect. Okay, so we're going to put that off to the side for a second. And last but not least, we have to get the front-facing camera out. Now, the front-facing camera is kind of epoxied in. So this may be easier said than done. Now, getting it out is one thing. Putting it back in, you don't need the epoxy. Okay, I'm going to have to resort to a little knife here just to see. But yeah, I've done quite a few phones now. No, I'm not professing to be an expert by any chance, by any stretch of the imagination, but every one of them that I've done have had some sort of glue holding this front-facing camera in, and every instruction set or tutorial video that I've seen always says that it's not imperative that we put it back. So that is what we're going to try to do here today, is get this out. That's the hardest part, and putting it back will be just dropping it in. No extra supplies required. I suppose it was completely imperative the kit would include it. So that leads me to believe that it's true. Now just be very, very careful here as we're prying. So we don't want to put an extreme amount of pressure on any one point. We just want this to come out evenly. There we go. And there is our front-facing camera. So now what I am going to do is I'm going to clean off the bit of epoxy that's left on the camera. You see it just peeled off there. There we go. Tiny little lens there, so we're not going to touch that. Put that off to the side. And that's it. We've got our empty shell with our broken screen that can now be put off to the side and throw in the garbage later. So now we're going to put this back exactly reverse of the way we took it apart. So very first thing I'm going to do, there's a protective cover over the camera port, the front facing camera port, and it actually, ooh, look at that. Might be some adhesive there. Not positive, but it looks like it might be some adhesive. So we're going to drop this back in, trying to make sure it lines up. Felt like it clicked into a little spot there. Looks good. I'm quite happy with that. And no, it's not adhesive, but it's still sitting there very well. And all the parts we put around it and screw down will hold that in place. So you don't have to worry about that not working. Okay, so next we've got the adhesive spot for the battery. Now remember, this is kind of how we took out the battery with the pull tab to the left. The connector goes on the upper right. So we're just going to try to drop this right back in place, just the way we found it. All right. Now turn this sideways, and the next piece that we took out was the camera module. So if you remember, I'm going to turn it this way. We had the USB-C port, the speaker, the SIM card spot. We're down there and in a little bit, so we're just going to push this down and that way a tiny bit. And as I'm looking at it now, the screw holes are all lined up just nicely. Very good. So that means it's in the right spot. Okay, why did that change all of a sudden? There we go. Okay, so let's get us some screws back in this. Now again, very nice actually. All the screws were the same except that one. Except that one little screw. So we're going to be putting back 1, 2, 3 screws in this board. There we go. Now this connector, okay, we're going to put on, but like I said before, the cables they almost align themselves when they're set up properly. So what we're going to do is we're going to put this back in this camera module, keeping clear of all the connectors. So there's no connectors on this side. There's a connector for the front facing camera. There's a connector here and 2 right there. So we're going to kind of let it find its little spot there without those in the way. Once that sits down, Just like that. Very nice. There we go. Okay, once that finds its home, you can kind of see how this cable's almost lined itself up now. I can even feel it almost sticking into that port. So we just wiggle it around a little bit till we feel it kind of stops and it's in its little spot. We'll push a little bit, give a little bit of pressure, and you hear that snap. That tells me that that's seated quite nicely. All right, so now we're going to hook up that cable. We're going to, the front facing camera decided to go for a little walk. We're going to put that back where it's supposed to be. Okay, and we're going to hook up the connector for the front facing camera. Well, again, just push it on there. This one doesn't want to line up as well. So have a look, wiggle it around. There we go. And you can kind of feel it. And then once you feel it sort of stop, it doesn't want to wiggle anymore. It's kind of in a nice spot. A little bit of pressure. Click. Away it goes. Well, that front facing camera is now installed and ready to go. We'll do the same thing for this connector. Okay. Wiggle it. Find that spot. That one clicked in. And then we're going to do this little guy here for the S Pen. Same procedure. So it'll click there. The battery we're not going to quite do yet because we have to install the wireless charging module, the speaker. Okay, we're going to put that stuff all in first before we actually hook up the battery. The battery will be one of the last things we do, but we have to hook it up before we lay this back down. But we're going to do the bottom part. Okay, so this bottom part just kind of clicks right back into there. But again, don't forget, this stays open so we can connect the battery before we do anything else. All right, next we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 screws that need to go back in. All right, 6 screws back in place. Now we can go ahead and connect the battery. Okay, so that's back in place. Double check these are all sitting properly. And now we can fold this back over. Okay, making sure all these screw holes line up nicely there. We can press that back onto the S Pen holder. Okay, and then we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 screws that go back in. Okay, right after. Sorry, there's a couple more that have to go in, but right after we put this on. See, almost forgot. I noticed a hole there. So we got to drop the top speaker in. One more connector. There we go. Something didn't look right there. Okay, now 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 screws, it looks like. All right, and last but not least, that little black screw that goes towards the top camera. There we go. Now we can plug in our last little connector there for the wireless charging module, and that looks like we're kind of back to normal. Dare I say we test it? Okay, so let's just give it a test here, make sure everything's good before we seal it back up. That's a good sign. It's a very good sign. Oh, would you look at that? Oh, and the buttons all work. Okay. Excellent. Okay. Next, we take our adhesive. So you can see the adhesive is only going to go on one way. We're going to make sure that we look and see which way that is. So if we look at the outline here, there's a curve. Then this one's a little bit more complex. Looks like the same as here. Just a curve, and then a little bit more complex, a little more things there, a little more things to go around. Now on the bottom here, we've got space a little bit more square, and then we've got this square here, which would equate to that spot right there. So this is the way that's going to go on. Now, the way they've got this, it's almost like you have to put it on here first. So that's, you know what, that's what we're going to do, is put it on the backing first. Maybe that's what you're supposed to do. There's no instructions that came with this, so we're going to do what we think is best. Oh, why is this on there? That shouldn't be there. Okay. Now, we got to line this up extremely carefully. I'm trying to figure out how to do this with the camera. So let's go the corner first. And then we've got the second corner. Okay. Let's just see how that lined up. Looks like it's lining up very well. Okay, now let's just lay it on there. Working our way this way down the long edge. Making sure it stays where it's supposed to. I have to lift that up a little bit. Okay. Push that right to the corner. Okay, it's not perfect on this corner, but it's perfect everywhere else. So that tells me that their measurements are a tiny bit off. So we're just going to make sure that that is on the backing, on the back glass of the camera completely. You're going to push down all sides. Make sure it's stuck nicely. Then there's a little bit. Okay. Oh, look at that. Okay. Good. So there's still another little layer on here that covers this up by itself. So you're not exposing the adhesive quite yet, which is good, which is very good. Because these camera ports got a little bit, or camera lenses, sorry, got a little dusty. We're going to dig out the IPA. Bring out the IPA to clean those up. Okay, all clean. So now, the last little bit here, we're going to take this adhesive cover, pull that off. Now we're ready to stick this back, making sure we've got the orientation correct. Okay, we're going to put this on top, making sure it's okay side to side, and drop it into place. Now, we're going to take our thumbs, okay, and just make sure that we're pressing down the adhesive all the edges. Make sure it seals as best it can anyway. It's never going to be like factory, but it'll seal the best it can. Turn that on while we're waiting. Okay. Our camera lenses on the outside a little clean. Oh, look at that. Beautiful. All right. Well, that was the Samsung Galaxy S24 Ultra screen replacement. Hopefully you learned something. Hopefully I wasn't too dry and took long to do it. But yeah, that's the kind of the point of these videos is a step by step. They're going to be a little bit long, going to be a little slower down, so people who've never done something like that before can kind of learn and hopefully gain some confidence that what, yeah, you can do it. You just get in there, get your hands dirty, and you'll learn something with everything you do. But if you're still watching, this is my very first video. I appreciate it. Any comments you have, good, bad, ugly, whatever, please, feedback is great. So please leave a comment down below. And if you like fixing stuff that you run into every day, you use on a regular basis, things you never thought never thought about it. Hey, maybe if I just fix this instead of having to go buy a new one. So if you like that kind of stuff, feel free to subscribe. Could be my first subscriber. You never know. But that'd be great. Anyway, thank you all. Thank you everybody who's watching. And yeah, we'll see you on the next one.